Hi guys, TastyMeatChunks here, and with that Overwatch 2 spotlight done, there's only one question on everyone's minds.
Monsieur, does this mean Overwatch is back?
Maybe just a little bit.
Now hold off with your flats pog thumbnails, and also hold off on your Overwatch 2 hate tweets. Because don't get me wrong, this is amazing news. But this is still Overwatch 2 we're talking about. This is still Blizzard we're talking about. Don't get your hopes up too high. I would love for this to be one of my most poorly aged videos of all time. Unfortunately, I think this video is probably not going to make anyone happy, so woo! I'm seeing so many Overwatch content creators hype up this as the return to form of Overwatch 2, and I hope that they're seeing something that I'm not, because I want to be excited for this, but I don't know that I can in good conscience hype this game up. We're talking about Overwatch 2 here. This is a game that has consistently let down players at basically every single turn of its development. Most, if not all, of these changes are awesome, but they're all awesome with an asterisk next to them. Let's talk about perks. Perks are probably the single most easy thing for me to point to and say that's awesome. I think that something Overwatch has been lacking greatly, especially in 2, is a bit more of the fun, crazy, wacky, unbalanced character design that Overwatch 1 used to have. I think that after Brig came out, a lot of the Overwatch devs were scared to really mess around with making characters that broken because they were worried that they would go down the same road. But in doing so, all the characters sort of started to feel a little bit bland and lifeless after 2 came out. But yeah, perks are awesome. I can't wait to see how they're implemented in the game and how much they can shake up characters to make them feel unique, or how they can make every game feel different on characters you already know. Is this addition to the game probably going to be widely unbalanced, and some characters will be considerably stronger than others or considerably more exciting? Yes, but I don't think that really matters, because the importance of this is it's adding more player agency and choice into the base game, which is something Overwatch has been lacking for quite some time. Galactic weapons, they still look like shit. I don't know why putting a skin on guns is so difficult for Overwatch, but it could just be a thing of them needing to be put in with the right skin combination. I don't know. If we get to a point where loot boxes coming back are something that the community is championing, you just made a dog shit monetization system. Going back to a better monetization system that was more fair for people, which granted, Overwatch 1's loot boxes were pretty damn fair, shouldn't really be getting any points from the community, because that's something the game had that it got taken out of it. I'm glad to see that they're back, but it's like when On Fire came back. I'm not going to commend the devs for putting in something they took out. Speaking of not commending the devs for putting in something they took out, Goats meta. Why in the hell are we bringing this back? I'm mostly kidding here. I am glad that new gen Overwatch players get to play this dog shit meta for themselves, so they can finally stop commenting on my old TikTok posts about how much I overhype Brig getting buffed, or how any content creator who seems scared of Brig is just being dramatic. And what would a new season of Overwatch be without some Kiriko skins, you know? I mean, she's basically starving. Reinhardt too, you know? We gotta keep giving them skins, you know? Next up, you're gonna tell me they're putting in a Juno Mythic. Putting in things like loot boxes and perks is nice quality of life, but it doesn't address the fact that the game just sort of feels empty. It's new content that I'm sure will be extremely exciting and fun to mess around with and play with once the game drops, but it isn't really something that's going to change players who got sick of this game to make it so that they come back for the long haul. No, this is much more of an Overwatch player that's already playing is going to enjoy these changes. And Overwatch players that weren't totally sold on the game will enjoy them as well. As for things like weapon charms, it's baffling to me that it took them this long to implement. The same thing for loot boxes goes for the hero banners getting their rank icons back. I'm not going to commend you for putting in something that you took out of the game. Getting detailed stat breakdowns is a good change, and I think that's something that I'm very excited for and would have made my life a lot easier back in my old content creation days. I don't need to use Cassidy rolls to measure the distance anymore.
But hang on, I gotta be a dick real quick. I want to take your opinions. I want to listen to it, okay? I didn't say I'm going to take it serious. Did you know the training range has a spot with a bunch of meters on it to measure? So you don't have to measure things in terms of Cassidy rolls.
Overwatch 2 getting a 6v6 open queue mode back, but with 2 tanks max, is a really nice change of pace, and it genuinely does make me happy to see these changes being implemented in the game. And I do think this is the one case where I am not going to complain about them putting something back in the game that they took out. There's a reason 6v6 was taken out of the game. It does have problems that need to be solved, but I am glad that we are starting to move in a direction where they are at least open to the idea of changing around the main game modes to make it so that all players of the game have something to enjoy. Now let's talk about the Stadium mode a bit. Stadium is cool, and I think both Stadium and Perks are basically this game's way of re-implementing mechanics that were from the scrap PvE content, which again, I'm totally here for. If all that dev time was spent on PvE, it should be integrated into the base game in some manner. If the story missions were going to be ass, I don't care if they're scrapped. I would like to see the story move forward through things like cinematics. That's clearly not a priority of the dev team. The next best thing is for the unique and fun gameplay mechanics that they developed to be implemented into the game through things like perks, or in the Stadium mode where it's a lot more complicated. This gives me very strong like Deadlock vibes, which is kind of fun to see. I almost would rather them put it in as a full-fledged MOBA style mode than I would as this mode, but I still think it's a step in a direction that makes the game a little bit more interesting. And for all the people who are out here saying that this is clearly just inspired by Marvel Rivals, I would like to remind them that game dev, especially with Blizzard, takes ages. So yes, this does seem kind of similar to games like Deadlock and Rivals, but I guarantee that it's stuff that is a logical continuation of them scrapping the PvE content. You aren't going to spend millions of dollars on this game, thousands of hours of dev time, developing skill trees and unique abilities, just to completely scrap them. Overwatch itself was built off of scrapped games, so it makes sense that this blood goes through with Overwatch to this day. And it's not something that I think Overwatch should be put down for doing. The events and stuff they're adding, I really could not give less of a shit about. Let's talk about the new hero. Freya, oh my god. Okay, so it's another main DPS or a hit scan DPS. She looks basically identical to Widowmaker. Half the people I know who saw this thought this was a Widowmaker skin. And this brings up some really important concerns with Overwatch 2's general design philosophy. Overwatch 2 characters all kinda look the same, especially the women added to this game. Aside from Junker Queen, we have no real unique body types with the female characters in this game. They all have the exact same, like, Marvel action figure pose, which to be fair is also something I have a bit of a beef with in Marvel Rivals. I want to see more unique characters with more unique body types, not only from an inclusivity perspective, but more so just in terms of the game's readability. It's going to be really hard to tell a character like Freya apart from characters like Ana or Iliari from her coat in the backline, or from her general stance and pose from characters like Ashe or Widowmaker. Not to mention in the gameplay side of things, she does seem to play fairly similar to some of those other characters. I'm not saying it's the same character by any means, but it is a little bit disappointing to see Overwatch consistently release characters that feel like they have a fairly uninspired and bland design to be carried by fairly unique gameplay. Not to mention, no cinematic. The new support that they showed off looks a little bit more unique, but he still looks fairly boring and bland, I feel like. This feels like if I asked AI to generate a Chinese Overwatch character. I don't really see the oomph in the characters they add to this game anymore in terms of what makes them pop and what makes them feel unique. And that's compounded by the fact that I don't really see them putting out the effort to put in things like high quality cinematics that really let us get to know these characters, flaws and all. Now the mod side of things, that's pretty cool and seems like very fun things that will actually change up how the game is played in a pretty significant manner. Again, similar to a game like Deadlock, which gave that game a lot of replayability for me. And third person in Overwatch seems like a bit of a no-brainer. I'm surprised it kind of took them this long because it lets you show off the skins, which, I mean, come on, let's be honest. That's probably the main reason it's being implemented in this game. As far as the cosmetic side of the game goes, I don't really care that much about who's getting mythics, who's getting skins. I'm kind of out of the game at this point. I do not give a shit. I do think it's important to note that giving Juno a mythic skin is kinda annoying. I find it frustrating that Overwatch leans so heavily on a specific niche of characters to make all of their skin bundle money. And ending the content side of things with another collab trailer with the same K-pop group and Overwatch esports, it's hard for me to get excited for this stuff. Look, all of these changes are at the very least good or neutral changes, but I really feel like most of them are fairly quality of life changes. Stadium seems insane and like a lot of fun, and I'm excited for it, but a lot of these changes sort of feel like the logical progression of Overwatch 2, as opposed to the second wind of it. I want to be wrong on all of this, I really do. I want this to be the thing that really revitalizes the game and gets people to stop hating on it and gets it to be a solid competitor for things like Marvel Rivals. And I think these are steps in the right direction. But as far as big Overwatch news goes, if you're already kinda out of the game, it's gonna be kind of hard to get you to come back into the game for reimagined abilities. You know, that's more of what I'm thinking on this. I think that a lot of the content creators and stuff who are saying we're so back, or this is like the saving grace of Overwatch, it's gonna be so much better, they're missing the fact that Overwatch does this literally all the time. It's not hard for Blizzard to hype up new stuff and act like it is revolutionary or game breaking. This could be revolutionary and game breaking, but that's the same stuff they said with 5v5, that's the same stuff that they said with PvE, that's the same stuff they said with Overwatch 2 as a whole. Now, I will be playing this new mode, and I'll probably have updated thoughts on it after a few weeks of the season being out, because no, I'm not trying to chase the day one hype train of Overwatch like that. If I drastically change my mind on it in the coming weeks or whatever, I will be posting an extra bonus video or something. We'll see. But here's the thing. He's coming out in Marvel Rivals this week. I'm still having fun with that game. I'm still looking forward to content drops in that game. I'm still very excited whenever anything new happens in that game. It's hard for me to say the same thing with Overwatch. I like the game. I want it to succeed. I want it to come back, and I want it to do better than it has been. But my concerns with Overwatch have and will always be that they seem to trade out the soul for the game for monetary greed. That they did things like axing their animation team and downsizing the content offerings. It's easy to see one big content drop and act like everything has changed, but the problem with Blizzard has always been its consistency. It's easy to get excited for something massive on the horizon for Overwatch. But my question is, can they keep that momentum up? And I think that the track record of Overwatch has shown consistently, no, they cannot. Again, I really hope I'm wrong this time, and that I'm lowering my expectations because Overwatch is about to blow right through them and make the most amazing changes I've ever seen, make me play it all the time, get me to grind the shit out of the game and play 6v6 and have a blast. But Overwatch has consistently let me down at every turn. I know it's done the same for many other people. So if you're one of those people, I'm asking you to try this out. I'm asking you to re-download the game. I'm asking you to come in with an open mind. But to not start blindly following Blizzard because they've said for the 15 billionth time, I'm sorry, we're gonna change. And also, while we're at it, I'm expecting a little bit more fucking criticism from the Overwatch community when it comes to something like this. A little bit more critical thinking. I'm not saying you have to hate on this mode. I'm not saying people hyping it up are shills, but what I am saying is we're talking about Blizzard here. Company that routinely screws over all of its player base, that routinely lets them down, that routinely lies or underdelivers or overpromises on stuff. And we're taking them at their word with all these promises and acting as if an instance of gameplay is going to somehow magically fix all the bad blood that Overwatch has had. I really hope it does, but it concerns me when I see all these content creators saying doom and gloom about the game, and 2 seconds later it's me and the bestie. Especially when they're being flown out to these events and stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, I still remember that the vast majority of the streamers of this game were out here trying to do their darndest to fucking sell skin packs.
Ooh, look, as usual, chat, as usual, I'll buy the skins. I really like this, like the way that they introduced all these skins. I like that.
Or going out to do the Porsche collab events and stuff. If you're an Overwatch player, treat this with a huge grain of salt. Most of these content creators, their lifeblood is Overwatch. They want to see it succeed. And part of that means not thinking that critically about new content for the game, because doing so might reduce the hype for the game. What I'm doing right now might reduce the hype for the game. But the fact of the matter is, you should be skeptical about this. This is a company that has barely delivered on anything over 10 years. Sure, they have their highlights, but they also consistently have their pitfalls. Saying Overwatch is back needs to be something that happens months down the line from a massive reveal like this. It can't happen the day of, because this game consistently is developed in a 1 step forward, 2 steps back manner. We don't know what the 2 steps back are yet, but I promise you they're gonna show up. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this. I can't wait for the Thing and Human Torch to come out, and I actually can't wait to try this mode. I know this video sounds like hating, but I'm really just trying to level people's expectations a bit when it comes to this new mode, when it comes to this new season, because I've been burnt too many times from this game, and I don't want people who are coming into this who've only been burned like 3 times by Blizzard to go, man, they wouldn't do it a 4th time, because they will. I'm trying to come into it with as open of a mind as I can, but damn, Blizzard makes that hard. Anyways, happy Monday. See you all on Overwatch, I guess.